Surrounding comedian Bill Cosby continues. Lisa is sitting down now with an attorney to break it all down for us. Lisa?
Yeah, Carlos. So, we were talking yesterday about that New York Magazine cover that came out. We'll show it to you. We have it. And we're going to bring in our friend, attorney Vikas Bajaj, this morning. There is the New York Magazine cover with all of these women, 35 women coming forward telling their stories about Bill Cosby and the alleged abuse that they suffered at his hands. So Vic is here this morning to talk a little bit about legally where these women stand criminally versus civilly. Good morning, Vic.
Good morning.
Okay, so the first question is there a criminal case that can be brought against Bill Cosby in this case, in any of these cases?
It's a very difficult question to answer, and the only reason why it's so difficult is because it seems like every day we open up the paper, we turn on the news, we hear of a new accuser that's coming forward. There is a potential that an accuser who has not come forward yet, who just realized that this may have happened to her when she was younger, there is a 1-year statute of limitations that applies in some cases once it's revealed to law enforcement.
But so on the criminal side? On
the criminal side, exactly. The civil side has longer statutes of limitations. We have, for instance, this young lady who's represented, or was a young lady, now she's 50-something years old, who's raising an allegation of rape in the 1970s.
When she was how old?
15 years old.
Okay.
And she was with a friend of hers who was 16 or 17 years old, and they were attending some sort of a musical concert. And they allege that Bill Cosby then gave them alcohol over a game of billiards, and then she alleges molestation took place in a private room of the house afterwards.
Okay, but this gets complicated because she was 15 at the time. She is now in her 50s coming forward with this. So what is the statute of limitations in this particular case, and is it different from other cases? How is it different?
Excellent question in so many levels, but primarily the reason why this particular case is different is because this lady's lawyer, Gloria Allred, is raising an allegation that the victim here did not realize the causal link between her emotional suffering, potential physical suffering, and the molestation that occurred. The California Supreme Court has struck down a number of statute of limitations issues both on the civil and the criminal side, but in this particular situation, it is very clear that you have a 3-year mark from the time you realize that causal connection between your harm and the actual tort or the act, in this case the molestation. You have 3 years within which to act. Bill Cosby's lawyers have filed a petition with the Supreme Court of California to say dismiss the case, it's beyond the statute of limitations. The Supreme Court of California denied reviewing the case and said no, it has to go forward. So essentially what the Supreme Court of California is saying is that there is a factual issue here as to whether that harm was realized in the past 3 years.
And this is all on the civil side of the law. So now let's take it one step further. So in this particular case, this woman is alleging the abuse happened, and it's moving forward on that front civilly. But also civilly, could these other women, perhaps these women that we see on the cover of the New York Magazine, could they get to Bill Cosby civilly for attacking their credibility in saying no, 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 denying these allegations? Could they file some sort of defamation or...
Great point, and that's exactly what's happening. Since they've lost, for the most part, the intentional tort actions against Bill Cosby and his team, meaning they cannot no longer move forward on sexual assault or sexual molestation. What they're left with is defamation. And in fact, you see more than a dozen of these women either filing lawsuits or preparing for lawsuits of defamation against Bill Cosby.
Do you, if you were handling Bill Cosby's case, if you were his lawyer, would you have him come out and say something about this? Or is this the defense you would suggest for him, just denial and don't say anything about it?
Right, I would deny the allegations. Frankly, I would tell Bill Cosby, look, as my client, you need to deny, but you don't need to point the finger at people and say that they're lying. That protects you from defamation. I will also say that the end goal here with Allred and her legal team is to try to get Bill Cosby to testify at a deposition, and then by so doing, using that as a basis for additional allegations.
That makes sense.
On the criminal side, however, Bill Cosby, if he were my client, would be well advised not to testify at the deposition. He has Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination, but interestingly, that may be what the plaintiff in this case wants, because the jury then will hear that he's invoked his right against self-incrimination.
And then therein lies a whole other host of of issues.
Exactly.
All right, Vic, always great to see you in the morning. Thank you so much for coming
Likewise,
by.
thank you so much.
All right.